This episode is financed by the Bank of Pontiac. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Season 2, Episode 2 of Tomahawk Talk, financed by the Bank of Pontiac. Of course, big thank you to all the folks over there at Bank of Pontiac, Mark Donovan, and his whole crew. I know a lot of familiar faces from the Pontiac sports world, and of course, Pontiac alike there. I know an alumni of the program, actually, Coach Aaron Adcock. He played football there, before your time, just by a couple of years. I saw that he's now a commercial lender in the Bloomington office, so hey,
Nice. I
gridiron
actually
up.
know Aaron. Yeah.
Yeah. So Aaron, I just saw on Facebook. I trust it. Maybe he'll get a business loan for the Jake Green show. Who knows? I'll go through Aaron to do it. But big thank you, of course, to the folks over there at the Bank of Pontiac. Without further ado, though, let's take a look at what we're going to do today. Again, that's going to be looking at week one, talking a little briefly. We'll dive in to the phases. We're going to talk offense, defense, special teams. We'll even talk the fourth phase. We'll talk about the fans a little bit, of course, too, as well in the phases segment of the show as we get into this weekly deal. And then we'll look at weekly awards, a new thing we're going to do in combination, the Tomahawk Talk, us over here with Friends of Pontiac Football on the show. We have a couple of awards from our friends over at Heller's, Dairy Queen and Eddinger's. We're gonna give out on our side, and also Coach Gadbury has a couple we'll integrate with the show as well, and those are going to be our Scout Team Awards. So again, we'll talk about who's doing what in all those phases. Again, we'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit later on, and we'll talk about Prairie Central over there in Chicken Hawk Land, and then we'll wrap up the show with the Endzone like we did last week, and just kind of cool off from the show and end it off and see everyone next week. So, without further ado, how about this, Coach? Let's talk about week one. Well, tell you what. Whether I don't know the last time I was involved, I don't think I've ever been involved really. Thinking back to a game that has been stopped in high school to where you've had to do it the next day. Have you ever been a part of this fiasco, if you would, where weather comes in, you can't do much about it, you get a little bit into the game, and then you sit for 2 hours and of course, the weather inbound and not really
Yeah.
able to do anything, right? I mean, hands are tied. You want to play that game on Friday night, but with the weather, you just can't do it. I mean, talk to me about that weather delay.
Yeah. It's kind of funny, because the first game of my career here was at Central Catholic, and we had a weather
Yes.
delay. We were able to play that game the rest of that Friday night. But I've been a part of a couple of those, couple in high school and so on and so forth. But again, you can control what you can control, and weather is one of those things that is uncontrollable. And you wish you could finish that game up on Friday. We end up playing it on Saturday, and just a little bit of adversity there for us against a really tough opponent, and a physical group that came over here, and a team that I think will play very late in the year. But some positives to grab from it. Some positives, some things to take with us, and I'm looking forward to week two.
I completely forgot about that game with Central Catholic. I should have thought about. So I was actually I was announcing at Farmer City that night. I beat the rain, drove through it on 74, maybe a high rate of speed, but we won't tell Illinois State Police that. I made it to Central Catholic there for the second half of that game. I did remember that now as soon as you mentioned it. But again, 40-6, the final score on a matinee Saturday afternoon. Scoreboard again didn't reflect it, but you mentioned a tough team there. They play a tough conference. They went to the quarterfinals a year ago. They have aspirations to do the same again. And of course, a lot of parts and pieces of that as we'll talk about in the next segment. But again, week one's closed. We'll talk a little bit more about it and dive in deeper to what the Indians did well here in this next segment. Again, you're watching Tomahawk Talk, Season 2, Episode 2, financed by the Bank of Pontiac. We'll be right back after the break. This episode is financed by the Bank of Pontiac. Hello, everyone. Welcome back from the break here again. Tomahawk Talk, financed by the Bank of Pontiac. Big shout out to all those folks up there at the Bank of Pontiac. A lot of locations. I think they just acquired. They acquired another bank, I believe, too. I don't want to misspeak, but a lot of cool things. A lot of involvement the Bank of Pontiac has. Again, we'll talk a little bit more about their involvement later on in the show because I do believe with the rivalry game coming up here this week, they even have some more implications, of course, with the Livingston County rivalry. But again, we'll talk about that here in a little bit. First, let's talk though about the phases we had earlier this weekend, right? Playing on two different days, I think plays a little bit into this, but I know you had a couple of movements here and there as far as folks playing different positions on different parts of those game days. But, Coach, let's look at offense first, right? I think I got to see most of that game. We worked with a couple of issues early on, so I missed some of that early excitement on Friday. But I know we saw some completions. We saw the run game work at times. You saw a different quarterback step in on Saturday later on in the matinee. Run me through some of your offensive successes and maybe some of those struggles you saw between the contests this week.
Yeah, we struggled to run the ball. We weren't able to get anything going, and they play a style of defense that is built to stop the run, and so we did a little bit more through the air as the game went on, and saw some really efficient things happen. I thought that our quarterbacks, both of them that played, threw the ball well, made the right reads. Did a nice job getting the ball where it needs to go, and we've got some really talented kids on the perimeter that are able to do those things and create some space and get open. And, that the run game will get going. There's not going to be very many teams that will be able to run the ball against Coal City this year. So, we're aware of that and learn from it and move forward and, bring a balanced attack here come week 2.
I think with all these teams in the conference, really, you see this a lot of places, right? But especially our conference with the IPC and Coal City, of course, they have a very heavy line play. Again, we've looked at noted linemen across the conference that have been playing in those roles and has been really devoted their lifestyles, I guess, almost to it. Again, one apple out of a big tree, but St. Joe has a gentleman going to Oregon as a lineman, still a young gentleman there. But again, you have folks like that across the way. And again, Coal City, they did run that line area pretty well. But I think something to look at on the offensive side. I thought our line grew as the game went on, but I thought our skill positions, Coach, I was very pleased with looking at the skill. You talked about the perimeter, you talked about the speed. I was very, very happy to see that. Moving to the other side of the ball, though, on the defensive side, again, you talked about a little bit of the line and who can run against Coal City. Well, it's also who's going to be able to defend their run. Again, you look at their line on that side too, and of course they have the Nashok, I believe his last name was. Of course, their running back there going to Cornell. They were able, I think, on the defensive side to really work together, open gaps. And Nashok, of course, was able to do what he did, and that's hard, right, to be able to defend against. But you still saw some good things on the defensive side. What were those, and what were some of your struggles again there on that other side of the
Yeah,
ball?
yeah. I mean, we got a takeaway in the first series of the game, which was huge. That's always exciting to take the ball away from the offense. And the thing is we didn't olay. We didn't let them just run by us. We were getting in the way, and we were putting our bodies in the way and trying to stop that force that they were bringing. Just when you play a team like that's well oiled and kind of maul you and wear you down. That's a long game. But I thought our kids up front in the box and on our defensive line played physical as they could have. We got to continue to move towards playing faster and more aggressive and using our speed is something that we play into our favor. Will be big for us here moving forward.
Coach, we've talked before this show had its inception, and as we've gotten into the show the last couple of years here about the building, right, and your 4 year time there, and I think something to note. We've seen the development over time. I feel like we've seen more where the whistle isn't blown dead, but we still have guys running across the field to get there. I think at a time we didn't have that, right? You have multiple blue jerseys with the Indian logo on them swarming the other jersey, right? I think again we didn't see that at time before. You're seeing those steps, and I really hope that the people at home can see that as well, and really see that these steps are being taken. And again, as these continuously iron sharpens iron mentality, again, I think that's going to show, and I think we're going to especially see it this week. Again, we'll talk about Prairie Central in a little bit. I am amped up for that game. We'll get there though. Special teams though, Coach, in that other phase as well. You had a really good return by Jaden Reed at a time. Again, I feel like the special teams aspect of the Indians, a blocked field goal too, right? That in the last year, especially, I think toward really most majority of and to the end of last season and to now, I feel like our special teams unit has really grown and has really been an impactful part of our phases.
Yeah, the biggest thing on that is playing clean, right? So when you're able to execute through your punt unit, you're able to field your kicks from a return standpoint. You're able to block an extra point. All of those things. That's great to see, and that just shows that our kids are bought into playing a third phase and continuing to progress in that area of the game because it makes a difference. So yeah, I mean, Jaden had a huge return. Evan had a big return. Evan Tracy had a big return. We saw some nice blocks from guys like Jack Voits and Jacob Olschlager and Logan Mackinson on those return units. Evan Tracy did a good job punting the football for us. So we're continuing to grow there, continuing to find where guys fit and how to make those units as strong as we can. But yeah, it's certainly something that we're continuing to build on and see it being an asset for us here moving forward.
Across all three of those phases, you graduated a couple of roles. I mean, notably, right, Brody Carr. I mean, I was very surprised how he punted a year ago. I mean, we don't see stuff like that normally. Of course, shoes to fill, but again, I don't think we did we did good filling those roles. I'm excited to see all those three phases continue to build, and again, in the right direction here as we move into week two of year four. Coach, we talked about those phases. I know we have one more phase, the fourth phase, if you would, big and up in Chicago. But here in Pontiac, it's not too shabby either. And I was very surprised on a Saturday matinee, the student body that showed up as well. Of course, talk about a little bit of difference there. I want to I'll hit on this a little heavier this week because, of course, Friday you have the packed house, everyone's there, it's amped up for week one. The rain fuzzes everything out, and Saturday is a way different atmosphere as a head coach and just as a football player too in your times past, what's that like, right? Because that's a huge different dynamic playing under the lights on a Friday in a packed house to Saturday, and of course, just a way different, right?
Yeah, it's hard to kind of figure out what your approach is there with that because you don't get to go through it very often. So you try and figure out how you want to navigate it and all of those things. But I thought for the most part our kids came as prepared as we could have. It's a learning experience for us, as a staff and as a group. But I think we've got to get to a point where we're willing to play anytime, anywhere, and that was the message to the guys, and we didn't quite get that done. But again, learn from it, grow from it, move forward, and I think we'll have a better idea of how to deal with that if we're faced with those challenges again.
And I think we'll see us. Hopefully, we see another Saturday matinee at Williamson later on in the year. But the stand's a little more packed because we're playing playoff football. I can't wait to see that again later this year. We're going to see a Saturday at Williamson again. Mark my words on that. Coach, we're going to wrap up the phases talk for this time. Coming back with Tomahawk Talk weekly awards. Again, we mentioned that a little bit earlier in the show. We'll name those players getting those accolades this week. And we'll talk Prairie Central over there in Huey Land. Again, we'll be back here. Tomahawk Talk, Season 2, Episode 2, Finance with the Bank of Pontiac. Big thank you to those folks. We'll be back after the break. Welcome back again from break. Coach, we talked about the phases in the last segment. Now, a cool part I think that we've introduced to this show here in week two, we're going to be naming some folks that have done exceptionally well, and they're going to get a little kickback as well, of course, from Tomahawk Talk and Pontiac Football, the program alike. We're going to work together on that one here. But, Coach, let's start with the Offensive Player of the Week here on Tomahawk Talk. Who you got and why?
I went with amazing. A kid that produced throughout the day, throughout the evening, Friday, and then throughout the day, Saturday. Ran his routes crisp. Was invested in his technique. Got one called back on a penalty that I whatever won't talk about it, but you get that one called back, and then missed one over the top again that he wishes he could have had back. But yeah, super productive. Just had around 65 yards receiving on multiple catches, and a kid that we look to try and continue to get the ball to.
Well, I'll tell you what, Coach, on the other side of the ball, too, another gentleman, you mentioned this a little bit earlier. He did quite a bit on the tackling side. Who's your defensive player of the week?
Noah Davis is a kid that took last year off. He's a wrestling kid. We were so excited to get him back, and of course, he's going to be our defensive player for week one. A guy that didn't even start and finished the game with the leading tackler on the game with 8 total tackles. Found himself around the ball a lot. And a kid that's going to continue to get more and more opportunities as he produces. So I'm really excited to have Noah back. He's a freaking hard worker. Love having him around, and he went and did his thing week one.
Love it. I believe his nickname in times past still might be was Snowman. I don't know where he got it, how he got it, but remember before, I think he was either in high school, hanging around, or maybe in his early years there. Of course, Snowman and Noah, great kid, of course, with him. Third phase, though, Coach, we hinted at it a little bit earlier. An important part of the game, that third phase. Who you got for special teams?
Yeah, there was a number of guys that I thought stood out and did a good job. I thought Aiden did well snapping the football. Evan did well punting the football. But Jaden, when you talk about having big returns like Jaden had, that sets yourself up offensively. And though we weren't able to take advantage of it, I think it's something that we can see being an attacking asset for us moving forward, and something that we're going to try and make sure we're emphasizing and continuing to grow on. So yeah, Jaden had a great day from a special team standpoint. I know he was frustrated. He never really got going offensively, but that's not going to be the case throughout the year. We're going to get him going, and he's going to get loose, and he's going to do his thing, like he's shown before.
I think one thing to note, right? I don't know if we quite got to that offensive rhythm, that move the ball rhythm that we have in the past at times. I think we will see that again. You saw the glimpses, right? But they weren't able to completely snowball effect. Snowman's here
Yeah.
too. But I know I think we're going to see that, like you mentioned. It was really cool to see Jaden on that far side, right? He broke a few, and it's like open field, and man, he almost had it all the way back. But
Mhm.
that was cool to see for sure in person. It's nice to hear Williamson, right, have kind of a roar, and we heard that at times on Friday, not as much on Saturday, but they were still there. They were making noise on Saturday, and you talk about those three phases, and in our last segment we talked about the fourth phase being the fans. Well, when you look to the program aspect, right, and you look to folks that really maybe don't get all the recognition during those times on the three phases, right? They're maybe not starters, they're maybe not backups, but yet they're in your program and they do a heck of a lot of work, and they make a very, very impactful difference, and that's your scout players.
Yeah.
And I know this is on your side, of course, Coach. You allot some rewards to your scout players of the week. You have two of them, a couple of young guys, right, that are over here working their tails off and helping your program.
Yeah, I mean, the first one is sophomore Braden Opperman, kid that just works, shows up and works and does his part and, does it to the best of his ability. So I'm really proud of how he's carried himself the first couple weeks of the season. And I can see him continuing to be a big asset for us, whether it's playing on Fridays, special teams, and getting some reps on defense, or, hey, helping us throughout the week, getting prepared and giving us a look from a scout team standpoint. So he does a tremendous job. And then freshman Reed Gray. Reed is a very physical kid, athletic kid, kind of plays O line, linebacker spot for us. So he's up front going against some of our big D linemen that we have, and seeing Donovan Curry and Logan Mackinson and some of those guys. But he knows that just makes him better, and he's kind of rolled with that role, I guess you could say, and had a really good week when it came to helping us get prepared.
Something I would have loved maybe about 6 years ago now, maybe, yeah, I guess 6 years ago now. I played scout team a couple times, and in my first year in COVID, we had 19 kids in the program, right? And the water boy, who had no business being out there, stood in a spot on the field, and again, testament to where we were just a number of years ago to where we are now.
Yeah.
I think it was what, Coach, 60 some in the program, is that correct?
Yeah,
Um,
we're right around 65 right now, 63, 64, somewhere in there.
I mean, it's awesome to see. Again, there was times we didn't have those lower level teams in recent years just because of numbers, but here we are now being able to fulfill that. Coach, we're going to step aside one more time here before, of course, talking about. I don't even want to say the words. Coming up this Friday, there's a contest, there's a competition. It's going to happen. We'll talk about it in the next break. Again, it's next segment. It is, Coach. See, I'm getting flustered. They're already playing mind games. Can't have that happen. Hey, Tomahawk Talk. We'll be back after the break. Here again, Finance for the Bank of Pontiac on episode 2. Welcome back to Tomahawk Talk, of course, Season 2, Episode 2, Financed by the Bank of Pontiac. Again, a big thank you to all of our partners, whether that be Friends of Pontiac Football, of course, those that are individuals that help the golf outing, businesses that help the golf outing, or, of course, our gold and platinum sponsors that are the feature sponsors of the show. For more information, you can reach out to Friends of Pontiac Football, and we'll leave some information, of course, in the show as well if you want to do that. But reach out either to me personally, Buck Cass, and Mike Mace, anyone with the Friends of Pontiac Football, and you can go ahead and get your friends or business or whatever it may be involved here in the show. This week, though, Coach, fast forwarding, looking ahead to this Friday night, it'll be a short bus ride over to Fairbury, the Livingston County rivalry. It's not Bears Packers, but it's awful close for me. I know. I feel like as you've gotten into the school as well, you've realized that the significance of this week. Obviously, we won't shy away from that. Big game here on Friday night, and we're over there in their neck of the woods, and it's time to go up for the Indians to go and play there. Coach, something to note as well. Let's go through my bullet points. Right, I have three I've wrote down. New head coach, kind of with Coach Quinn. He's back after a couple of years off. Had some success a couple of years ago before he departed. He's back there with that program. However, he works with, from what I understand, no offensive starters returning. So again, you're kind of running that wheel again, trying to find who fits where, who does what with their offensive program. Not sure their program as a whole is kind of where it has been in years. I think they're maybe on the downhill slope a little bit, but nonetheless, still will play a game there on the gridiron on Friday, regardless of where they're at and who's coaching that team. Now, this third bullet point I have on my list over to my left is one that I cannot wait for. I told TJ Murphy this earlier this week, and I said it's going to happen. I made a phone call. I was supposed to be at Farmer City announcing. I said, hey, I really want to be up at this game. I can feel it. Don't want to miss a Pontiac Prairie Central game anyway, but I can really feel this one. I think that trophy comes home on Friday night. It's going to make the journey back and sit in our case for a little while. Been a couple of years since we had it. We dominated when they first started doing that rivalry trophy. It switched hands, but I think it's time for it to come home. Coach, looking ahead at Prairie Central, your game plan and thoughts kind of going into here to week 2.
Yeah, I think first and foremost is Andrew does a really good job. I know he's back and back in his first year, taking a couple years off, but you can tell right away watching the film that they're well coached, and although a little young and inexperienced, they're still a opponent that is dangerous. You know, with what they do schematically and all of those things, they're athletic and again well coached on both sides of the ball. So excited for the opportunity. It's a big game because it's the next game. Obviously, you have the rivalry and all of those things. That's great. That's awesome. I enjoy it. But our message this week is to focus about what we do, continue to improve what we do, and that's play faster and forward and more aggressive. And I think that we'll see good things as long as we're able to do that.
Coach, again, talking a little bit about Prairie Central there. How do you mentioned, right? We do our thing, right? We worry about what Pontiac has to do on that next play mentality. But of course, we talked about the fourth phase a little bit earlier. How is it? You've played in those rivalry games, right? As a player yourself, as a coach, having to deal with a couple of rivalry games. Of course, how do you manage some of that atmosphere, some of that fourth phase? Again, it's going to be one of those heightened games this year where it's going to be bark here, bark there, back and forth from from really since last year to now. How do you deal with that? Again, of course, you mentioned right. We do our own thing, but of course, there's some more mentality with that. Any thoughts there?
Yeah, I think you just got to stay calm in the fire, right? Understand that there's going to be ups, there's going to be downs, there's going to be times where the ball bounces our way, and there's going to be times where the ball doesn't. I think you got to be calm and understand that there's 4 quarters to be played, and don't listen to the noise, and again, just fall back on what we do every day and how we prep and how we prepare and get ready to go. So I think if our kids can stay within themselves and play the way that I know that they're capable of playing, it should be a good time Friday night, and I'm excited to be a part of that atmosphere and get to enjoy that. That's high school football. So yeah, as long as we're calm in the fire and execute what we're supposed to be doing, it'll be a good football game.
Can't wait for Friday night, Coach. Like I said, I was able to be there. Can't wait to have that game, and can't wait to get a picture with you with that trophy afterwards. It'll happen. I believe too, if I'm not mistaken, the Bank of Pontiac also might feed the winning team. So I know, hey, we had the Bank of Pontiac show this week. Just throwing that out there. Throwing that out there. Maybe we'll see if they're cooking anything good. I'll come up for team meal next week. But hey, we have one more segment in this show. We're gonna wrap up, but have to first thank a couple of our marketing partners. And then we'll be back to wrap up here, episode 2, season 2 of Tomahawk Talk, finance for the Bank of Pontiac. This episode is financed by the Bank of Pontiac. Welcome back again to the Endzone segment here on Tomahawk Talk. Of course, big thank you to the folks over there at the Bank of Pontiac. Coach, here in the Endzone segment, wrapping up for this week. I want to ask you, what are we doing for team meal this week? What are we chowing on? What are some interesting thoughts we're going to have this week as everyone gets together and eat?
I think it sounds like it's pizza this week, so we'll do pizza, salad. Might throw some fruit in there, make sure they're getting their vitamins and their nutrients and all those good things. But the kids love it. I know I like being a part of it. You get a good meal, and you get the group together and spend time together, quality time together, and build as a brotherhood.
It was always a highlight. Again, I was the manager for football in my time in Pontiac, and arguably at times I probably did more than others. But there was one thing, like right, like there was sometimes maybe I either Zach had his water still at times, but I remember making sure team meal was on my list for sure, no
Yeah.
doubt about it. Um, Coach, something else pretty interesting here going on at PTHS in the athletic department. Athletic Director John Neisler has picked for every program every week. There's some values, right, that we're trying to follow up there, and you've nominated a gentleman to do that. That has done that rather. Talk a little bit though about what that is up there with John and the awards weekly, and
Yeah.
then who you picked.
Yeah, we're just trying to highlight our student athletes. Whether it be on the football field or running cross country or um, on the volleyball court. We're trying to highlight our kids when they do well, and coaches get to nominate who their picks are for the week. And this week was a student athlete that shows unselfishness, and TJ Murphy did a tremendous job of that, being unselfish and um, you know having a good week and moving around a little bit positionally to try and make things work a little bit, possibly getting on the defense side of the ball a little bit more. So he's willing to do whatever it takes for this program to be successful. And to me, that's a good teammate and somebody that's unselfish and cares about what we're doing here as a program.
Worked along TJ basketball in what was his freshman year, I believe, maybe sophomore as well. And then, of course, with the broadcasting stuff too, you nailed everything on the head there, right? It's not just football with him. I strongly believe, right? One of those really unselfish, good guys that you work alongside, and willing to be a team player and willing to be that person that just is willing to do what is needed to accomplish the common goal, right? And TJ also, folks at home can't see this. They just saw TJ's face up on the picture. New haircut, new hairdo.
Yeah.
That blonde hair has been staring at me for a while, waiting for that graphic. But congratulations, TJ. We'll note that's a weekly thing too, so we will note the players weekly on that there in our end zone segment too, to make sure they're getting recognized as well. Of course, we have our awards, but we want to make sure. those are also highlighted again. You can find all the programs at the Pontiac Township High School Athletics Facebook page. Again, all of those programs there, and what the coach has nominated that person for, that student athlete for, is up there as well. Coach, we've reached the end of show two just like that. Again, I told you you'd be seeing me every week, and I wasn't lying. Again, Fairbury this Saturday. I do know for coverage wise, I believe. Radio for sure. Game of the week on 93.7 WPOK. It'll be on the radio. I do believe as well, I want to say Fairbury News or Route 24 Radio will cover video coverage of the contest. Again, with some of the staffing things we've had gone over there with the Cast Media Network, makes sense to have that crew simulcast it. And so you can still watch it for free. Of course, you might hear some voices like Jeff Curl, and I think maybe Mike Wolf might be jumping on there as well. They're kind of standard team. And then, of course, it'll be on the radio as well for those of you who don't have access to the Facebook stream. Or make a trip over to Fairbury and check out what all they have going on. And of course, that contest on what I believe I hope to be a beautiful Friday night. I haven't looked at the weather, whether it's snow, flood waters, tornado. Well, you can't do it in lightning, so maybe not a tornado. But hey, no matter what happens, Friday night we'll see you up there at Prairie Central. I can't wait, Coach. Any final thoughts? Anything else to say as we end show number two?
No, just happy with our kids have responded this week. It's never fun coming off of a loss, especially like that. But we knew who we were up against, and we're excited about the next one, and going to take it day by day, and continue to improve and get better, and stay focused on what we're trying to accomplish in all three phases. And just really like being around this group, and just excited to see how the season shakes up.
I have it on my chest. My camera's backwards because of the laptop, but it says believe, right? And on the back of it, it says why not us? I have another shirt that says family, that says one team, one goal. Hey, you gotta believe it. You gotta buy into it. I think we're there, Coach.
Yep.
Can't wait to see it Friday night. Of course, the tribe rolls on. Just a quick trip over the Livingston County rivalry happens this Friday night. We'll talk again next week, recapping Prairie Central and previewing the next one. We'll see you, of course, on Tomahawk Talk, Season 2, Episode 3. See you next time. Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.